PowerPlayChess, brought to you in association with Kagi. This game was my nomination for the Best Game Prize at the Amateur Chess Organisation World Championship for over 50s held in Crete at the beginning of October. It's really spectacular. Stick around, you're going to enjoy this. So these ACO tournaments are really great fun, really great events. I warmly recommend them. Conditions are superb. They're held in 5-star hotels and they combine a holiday with a chess tournament. They're really well run. So do check out the ACO website. Next ACO events are going to be held on the Greek island of Kos in May. There's the World Amateur Championship, that's open to all ages, and a World Super Seniors tournament for over 65s. Don't forget, register before the end of November to get an early bird discount on the hotel price. I'll be there as a coach, helping players analyse their games and giving lectures and similar as well. So I look forward to seeing many of you there. Anyway, let's look at this absolutely splendid game. There's usually a strong Norwegian contingent at these ACO events, and this year was no exception. And many of the Norwegian players claim to have beaten Magnus Carlsen, at least when he was a kid. But I can tell you, Magnus would have been proud to play this game with black. So here we go. Franz Neubauer from Germany against Cato Beckersletten. d4. And it looks like white is going for a Jabava-London system. So for example, if d5, then bishop f4. That's the Jabava-London. And that's, these days, quite a respectable system. But Cato plays e6. Now that looks quite modest. It's actually a very clever opening idea. So it's inviting white to play e4, and then we're back in a classical French. Very respectable. But white continues with bishop f4. So this is very common that players kind of have a set system in mind. In this case, the Jabava-London, and they kind of play it regardless of what their opponent is up to. But actually, after bishop b4, with this rather unpleasant pin, then white has a few difficulties. So the game continued e3 and knight d5, immediately putting pressure on the knight here, and of course looking at the bishop. So c3 protected, and black snaffles the bishop. Why not? And already I feel that black should be absolutely fine here because you have the two bishops. And the pawns, well, that pawn on f4, it's a little bit damaged. But I think it's the fact that black has the two bishops, that's the important thing. b6, yeah. This one needs to come into the game. And white decides to play very aggressively. Queen d3, and then castles queenside. Well, fair play. He's really going for it. So now we have a very interesting position where it could be that the players are going to castle on opposite wings, and then, yeah, let's see what happens. It's going to be a race to see who can attack first. So d5, I think that's a reasonable move because black plants a pawn in the middle, and that stops this knight transferring over to the king side. So I think a good idea. g4, so white is going for it. Yeah, I fully approve of this. And c5. So you can see we've got these two attacks already in progress. a3 and c4, hitting the queen, and then absolutely correct, the bishop drops back. There's no need to give up bishop for knight. I think this is potentially a very useful piece. It looks in both directions. Could be a useful piece for the defense, but also for the attack. It's at this point where I feel that white makes a fundamental error. I think in such a double-edged position as this, you just have to keep going regardless. So I think, a move like h4 just starting to push the pawns, h5, g5, and so on is the best way to continue. And, well, just very double-edged. But white plays king b1. And that's one of those moves that's often played. You just tuck the king into the corner. But here I feel actually it doesn't really improve white's position. In fact, it could be that the king is poorly placed on b1. It might be better placed on c1 because it might be able to run out. In any case, it basically gives black a move. Knight a6. And I think correctly, instead of castling, black starts to develop on the queenside. Knight g3. And yeah, b5. No messing around. You don't have time to prepare nicely, neatly, by keeping everything protected. You've just got to go for it. And I think this is absolutely correct. Because if this pawn is taken, then it simply opens up the b file. And yes, what's at the end of the b file? The king. And you can see that black's pieces are already massing really nicely on the queenside. Too many open files. So white really can't contemplate that. So yeah, b5 played. So already there's a threat to open lines with b4. So white decides just to bring the knight back. But anyway, b4, absolutely correct. Don't waste time castling. Just open lines as quickly as possible. c3, and the bishop once again returns to e7. I think it's a good square because it blocks the e-file and looks in both directions. f5. So white is anxious to get the initiative and is trying his best to attack. There's no need to take this. That would bring the knight into the game. Queen b6, excellent move. So that combines defense with attack. The queen, of course, looking down the b file, the king at the end of the b file. White decides to take on e6 and rook e1. So yeah, trying to get some attacking the e pawn. And now, very nice move. Very simple. You might think that's a bit passive. It's perfect though. So the bishop defends the pawn, but actually opens the b file for the rook. And there we go. So f4. White is in a hurry to try and open lines, but rook b8, already a threat of mate. You can see it's paid off opening up the b file. And bishop a3. The bishop returns to attack this pawn. Excellent play. Threatening bishop takes b2, so the queen retreats. And this is a cool move. So these pieces are in play, all attacking. But white is holding firm with these two defensive moves. So what does black do now? Well, you need more pieces in the attack. So at move 23, finally, castle's kingside. This makes perfect sense, and it's perfect timing. There could be a threat to take on f4 and then break through on b2, maybe. And if not, then the rook can move up to f7 and then swing across to b7, tripling on the b file. And that could be fatal immediately. So two ideas, hitting this one, but also looking to play rook f7 to b7. And of course the king is safer as well on g8. So white decides to play f5. Now that looks to distract black and maybe weaken this pawn so that the bishop can come to g2. Black takes and knight takes f5. Okay, here is where I would like you to have a think. I'll have a little slurp tea. I'll have a drink, you have a think. How did black play next? Now, I'd like you to, not just to guess the next move, I'd like you to calculate. Because actually at this moment, Kato actually worked it all out and saw it through to the finish. So cheers. Time for you to have a think. Here we go. Well, he didn't play bishop takes f5. He played rook takes f5. Really nice exchange sack. Well, in fact, it's a forced mate. So a check. That bishop enters the game with decisive effect. King a1, and now, here we go. Of course, you could retreat the bishop, but no. It's forced checkmate. Bishop takes b2. Queen a5. Check. The rook has to interpose, and now here we go. It's beautiful. Queen takes c3. So if queen takes, then rook b1 is mate. Fantastic. There we go, the b file. That's the main avenue of attack. And in the game, rook b2 was played, and then of course, queen takes c1, and white resigned. Of course, it's mate next move. Spectacular finish, beautiful finish. But actually a very logical conclusion to this game. I think black Kato Beckersletten played with great consistency. His eyes were on the prize right from the word go, attacking white's king, and he didn't hesitate. So congratulations, Kato, on an excellent attack. So I look forward to seeing more splendid attacking chess at the next ACO event in Kos. So just to remind you again, World Amateur Championship and the ACO Super Seniors for over 65s. Hopefully see you there.